Is your Dharma your karma? As you've mentioned, they are intricately connected. Karma is very, very specific to you. As many people as there are in this room are as many different karmic packages as there are in this room. 7 billion people on the planet, 7 billion karmic packages, which is why 7 billion different lives. Dharma has two components. It has the individual component, but it also has a universal component. While you and I have different individual Dharma, there's the universal Dharma that's also very important to remember. And the universal Dharma is the stuff that we all are supposed to abide by. Remember, Dharma is a very difficult thing to define in English. It's a Sanskrit term that all of the English definitions tend to sort of describe around it. We can do this without actually getting to it. Dharma is that which protects us. The root of the word Dharma is that which protects us. Dharma is that which holds us together. Dharma is the righteous way, or the right path. Those are all just different ways of kind of going around it. We also say things like fire's Dharma is to burn. Water's Dharma is to be wet. So again, none of these is an exact definition or an exact translation. Each of them kind of takes us around. But what we know is that the right path, that which protects us and holds us together, is things like compassion, integrity, truthfulness, right? You look at your yamas and niyamas. Okay. You could say, these are the 10 commandments of a dharmic path. They happen to be the base of the 8 limbs of yoga as given to us by Patanjali that we call the 5 yamas and the 5 niyamas. But you could absolutely make an argument that these are the 10 commandments of a dharmic life, right? It's the right way to live. We all need to live with nonviolence. We all need to live with honesty. All of these apply to everyone. But then individually, this is where karma and dharma overlap. Individually, we come into this world with our own, as we say, karmic package, and therefore with different dharmas. So, someone's dharma may be to be a professor. But now a dharma is not a career, and this is actually where it ends up getting really misunderstood a lot these days. A lot of people come in and they'll say, well, I don't know what my dharma is. I'm looking for it. I can't decide whether to be a lawyer or an engineer or a business person. Now, these are career choices. When we talk about someone's dharma of being a teacher, well, they may be a teacher in the career of an engineer. They could be a teacher in the role of a CEO of a company. Dharma is that which, when I perform, it is the nature of who I am. As in, a fire's dharma is to burn, a water's dharma is to be wet, right? We're not just talking about what it does. We're talking about its nature. And this misunderstanding that we've got has made a lot of people not only very confused about it, but it has made people believe that their career is the thing through which they are supposed to be fulfilling their dharma. And that's not always the case. For some it may be. You could look at the Bhagavad Gita. I keep coming back to it. It's A, of divine scripture, a great example. B, it's what you're studying. So you could say, okay, Arjun's dharma as a warrior is to fight, to uphold the dharma, as in the universal dharma, as in peace and righteousness and goodness and all of that in the kingdom, which is why he needs to fight the battle. You could also say, in some sense, being a warrior was his job or his career, right? I mean, not actually, but yeah, this is what he gets up and does. But that's a rare case. And it's also not the case throughout his whole life, right? I mean, the war was what he did at a certain point. What he did at a different point was serve as rulers of the kingdom. But what he did for a lot of time was run from his evil cousin. All of that was dharma. And people today have this misconception that somehow I'm going to figure it out. Is it my dharma to be a fashion designer? Or is it my dharma to be an engineer? Or is it my dharma to be an actress? Or is it my dharma to... Chances are none of us have come in with that type of, I always say nobody comes into this world with something stamped onto your bottom that says president of the company, or stamp on the bottom that says runway model. We come stamped on the bottom with divine being. What we choose to do is a product of 100 different factors. It's a product of our karma, which has given us the opportunities, right? Some of us are going to have the opportunity to get an advanced education, right? Some of us have the ability to stay in school, even go to college, get a bachelor's degree, you can get a master's, you get a PhD. Well, you can only do that if you don't have to be chopping rocks on the side of the road to put food on the table. Nobody's going to go for an advanced degree while their children starve that there's no food on the table. So what my career can be is a product of a lot of factors, one of which being my karma, because my karma has determined which family I'm born in, which situation I'm born in. Do I even have the luxury to finish school? Or do I need to go work out in the fields at 9 years old to support the family? This is karma. This is what karma has put me into. But when we talk about dharma, so I'm trying to help you see distinctions. When we talk about dharma, dharma is what is the nature of who I am? I mean, my individual dharma. What is the nature of who I am? That I am put here to do and to be. And that doesn't necessarily mean a career. If I am the one who's chopping stones on the side of the road to feed my family, well, you wouldn't say a stone chopper is my dharma. But my dharma may very well be to be the provider of my family. My Dharma may very well be to be the first person in my village whose children have the possibility to finish school because I kept chopping stones on the side of the road to send them to school. So you see the distinction. One is what I'm doing. It's a product of my abilities, my skills, my opportunity, the karmic package I've come in with. It's also a product of how much I apply myself. You may get a job because you had the tenacity to show up every day to remind the boss that you really wanted it, while someone else might have been much more qualified than you were, but was more content to sort of rest on her laurels and wait to hear back from the boss. And it was your tenacity that paid off much more than your ability and skills. So the jobs that we end up with, the careers that we end up with, are not necessarily that which we have to look at as that which is supposed to fulfill my Dharma. If my Dharma is to be a leader or a teacher, well, that doesn't necessarily have to be how I pay the bills. Our scriptures are full of stories of people who are incredible. Sages, rishis, at heart and in knowledge and in what they share, what they give, what they do, but who are cobblers or stone workers, low-level workers. Is there Dharma to be a cobbler or an ironsmith? No, the Dharma is to share wisdom. Sewing the shoes is what they do to keep food on the table to feed the family. Now, lastly, going back though to the concept of this universal Dharma, doing our duty is part of our Dharma. So, this is where Dharma gets complex. So, sewing the shoes, chopping the rocks on the side of the road, it's not that being the rock chopper is my Dharma. Being the cobbler is my Dharma. But my Dharma is to do my duty, which is to take care of my family. And I'm going to do whatever means necessary in order to do it. My Dharma may be to be in service of the environment, let's say. Okay? So I work for an environmental organization, and the job they give me is folding and stuffing envelopes. Okay? Maybe they're having a fundraising drive, maybe whatever it is. I come in, I want to serve, I'm given this task of folding and stuffing envelopes and putting stamps on them. Well, is my Dharma to stuff envelopes? Have I really come into this world with the Dharmic package of envelope stuffer? No, but my Dharma might be to serve the environment. And today it may be envelope stuffer. Tomorrow it might be picketer. Day after it might be letter writer. Next year it might be lobbyist. Who knows? That's going to keep shifting. So the duty that I have in how I'm fulfilling my Dharma is going to change. But if I look at envelope stuffer and say, well, this can't be right. I thought it was right because I wanted to work for the environment, but clearly I'm overqualified to be, licking stamps and sticking them on envelopes. If I'm expecting that to be my Dharma, or that to be my way of fulfilling my Dharma, and I'm looking at it that narrowly, I'm going to be very frustrated. If I understand that my Dharma is to be of service to the environment, and if today what Greenpeace needs me to do is stuff envelopes, that's what I'm going to do. If tomorrow they need me to lobby, and the day after they need me to write a letter, and next week I'm going out on one of their boats, and whatever I'm doing. And who knows? It may be 20 years of doing that and not feeling like I'm making any difference. When let's say some news channel, I'm making this up as I go along, but let's say some news channel is doing a story on Greenpeace's work, and because I've been working there for 20 years and this is what I happen to be doing these days, they interview me. And what I share in that interview, the information I give or the inspiration I give, ends up creating a domino effect on global policies of what's going on in the oceans or in the forests or with the air. Right now, remember, my Dharma was to serve the environment. I had no way of knowing when I was stuffing envelopes that the way that was going to happen was through that which I'd learned over fulfilling so many different roles for them over the 20 years, and then having the ability to convey that at the right time, in the right way, in a way that caused that ripple impact. Or instead of it being a TV interview, the, Environmental Protection Agency has got a vacancy, and they ask my boss, and he says, oh, I've been a great worker. I get sent over there. Now I'm making policy. Now I'm able to effect great change. So there's a million ways for this to happen that we have no idea. And this is why, as Lord Krishna says in the Gita, we just keep doing. We just keep doing our duty. Staying in alignment. Having faith that the way is going to be shown to us, that which is supposed to flow is going to flow through us. And all of this, of course, in alignment with our karmic package. For some people, their Dharma is going to flow through them in one way. For some, it's going to flow through in a different way. For others, it's going to flow through in a different way. Right? So Arjun's Dharma was to be this warrior and restore the Dharma. His karmic package included him being born at that time and that war being the one for him to fight. If he were born today, his Dharma would be the same. But his karmic package would have been different. And so he would have been fighting that war in a completely different way. Restoring Dharma today looks very different than it looked then. We don't use horses so much. We don't use chariots so much. We don't use bows and arrows so much. He'd require a completely different skill set. Dharma is the same. Karmic package and therefore circumstance is different.